Hey everybody, I'm going to make this adorable shaker card today with you guys, and it's super easy. I used the honeybee shaker frames set to cut myself both the little circular frame that you see. It also cuts out the circle out of a piece of this adorable gingham paper. And I use the frame part just to line up the center circle that I'm going to ring with the shaker frame. Now I have this cute little fox. It comes in several layering pieces, which I am going to watercolor. And the fox is put together in such a way that I can watercolor the red parts of the fox and leave the white parts white. So it's really easy if you want to watercolor or paint or color with markers. You can sort of color it in a modular way and then put them together and the white parts stay white. It's really cute. So I'm using Daniel Smith watercolor to color the little foxy bits. And this top of his head will go on top of that top part. And then I have the little eyes and the little ear pieces. And then for his body, there's just this one little section that's going to remain white. And so instead of doing wet on wet watercolor, I'm doing wet on dry, which is going to allow me to avoid that white area and not have any bleeding into it. So that's very quick and easy to color. If you use your smallest brush, you can really get up against that white part in kind of a crisp way and still have that fun watercolor look for the rest of his body. Now I'm using Aussie red gold pigment and transparent red oxide for a little bit of darker shading on this. I just find that using 2 or more colors makes it a little bit more interesting. While the watercolor is wet, I drop in the darker color and it sort of self-blends. That's the beauty of wet on wet watercolor. And I'm leaving his little teeny tiny paws just a little bit lighter and trying to keep the shadow underneath those. So cute. And you'll notice the difference between dry watercolor and wet watercolor. It gets lighter as it dries. Now for the inside of his little ears, I want to color those a really pale pink, so I'm putting a little bit of pigment on the first one and then sort of sharing it between the 2 earpieces. His eyes will be black, and then of course I will color the little heart that he's going to be holding in his paws red. I'm using actually 3 different colors to color this heart. I know it's a small die cut piece, but I'm shading it with a darker color around the edges, and then I decided that I wanted a warmer color in the center, so I actually added a little bit of yellow just to sort of make it harmonious with the fox and less of a cooler red, more of a warmer red. So just a tiny bit of color added to the center of that heart, and that'll dry and be sort of a little more matchy-matchy with my fox. So now I will just clean off my work surface before I move on to the rest of the project. Just having a clean surface makes a big difference, especially if something isn't all the way dry yet. I did use the heat gun to dry these the rest of the way before gluing. That is important if you're using watercolor paper. So I'm gluing the top part of the fox's head, and then on these little paws, I'm going to push them out with my little multi-purpose tool so that they can hold the heart. And I'll put glue on the back of the body part, but not on the paws, because I want those paws to stick up and I want to be able to maneuver that little heart into there. So what's cool about these dies is, see the little etched shapes? Those show you where to put all the different little pieces. They could have designed these dies just with the pieces that go together, but they went ahead and put the extra work into putting those embossed details in, which I think make their dies so much easier to layer, and I really appreciate that they spent the time and money to do that, especially for my old eyes that don't want to do any guessing. So now I'm using my pickup tool to put these onto the little fox. Oh my gosh, those little black eyes are so cute, and his paws are sticking up. And so I'll put a little bit of glue onto the back of the heart and then slide it in between his two little paws. And don't worry, that glue will dry perfectly clear. So now that he is all ready, we'll see how he's kind of going to go into this circle. It turns out he's the perfect size to sort of frame with the shaker dies. So this is how it's going to look. I want the fox to be behind that glittery circle, which I just double layered. I cut one out of glitter paper, and the original one that I cut out of the gingham is layered behind that, so it's just a little bit thicker. Now I have some strong double-sided adhesive around the opening, the shaker opening on what is going to be on my card base. So I will just remove the adhesive, and the envelope that the sequins are in is just a piece of stamp packaging, as you can see from the hang tag. I love using the stamp envelopes for flat shakers. I never throw them away. I always repurpose them, and they're such like a clean, clear acetate that it really makes for cute shakers. So now I'm just using your good old-fashioned foam tape to put along the edges. I did cut the side pieces in half because of the size that my shaker opening cut. I don't have quite as much room on the sides as I did on the top and the bottom. What's great about flat shakers like these is the sequins sort of become trapped in that packaging and they don't move around that much. So you're not going to have a card where the sequins are sort of going to slide out of view. And I just love that. So I love flat shakers anyway. I really wasn't ever good at the other kind. So these are just so much easier for me. So once that's lined up and on your card front, then we can start to put the little scene together. Sort of like a little porthole feeling here. So it would be really cute with any kind of ocean theme. You could also use small circle dies or punches to cut little holes if you wanted to make a porthole out of this. These circle shaker dies are just some of my favorites. Super useful whether or not you're making a shaker. Just the layering circles alone are nice to have. So look how cute he is framed in there. That's so cute. And I deliberately chose cool colors for the background because the fox is a warm color. So think about that color contrast when you are designing your cards as well. The sequins are just kind of an iridescent sequin, so they'll pick up any of the colors around them. Now, I don't like to use glue on acetate. I find that that gets a bit messy. So for the fox, I'm using the double-sided tape again, and that's just a less messy way to do anything that's on a clear surface like acetate or this little packaging. Now on this little circle, you'll want to take your skinniest double-sided tape and work it all the way around the circle. Again, since it's going on to that plastic packaging, I don't think glue is a good idea. It's very hard to get off of clear surfaces in a way that looks anything but messy. So now this little ring will just slide down and perfectly frame that fox. Just be sure you press it down all the way around that little circle so it stays flat. And look how cute that little fox is. And you can see when I shake it, they don't really move much. They're just sort of staying in that place. And then that little bit of dimension that you're given by the foam tape just pops it up off the card a little bit. Now I use this sentiment and the matching dies just for sort of an all year, any type occasion, love and friendship card. And my sweet little fox has some friends that also can hold various things in the same die set. Here's what the finished card looks like.